I can't believe I'm leaving for Myanmar in 2 days. Who'd have thought I'd come up with such a crazy idea? And even crazier, make it happen. It's my dad's fault, all of this. He started telling me his war stories. Can you believe he waited till I was 52 before he started telling me about his wartime adventures? I found them so interesting, I wrote a book about them called A Corporal's War, and dreamed of going to the places in India and Burma he told me about. And then, after surviving cancer, I thought if I'm going to do it, I'd better get on with it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to Myanmar, which used to be known as Burma, to travel along the Lido Road, following in my father's World War II footsteps. You know, we're going to Burma tomorrow on that trip.
Who?
Me and Peter.
Okay, yeah.
We're going to go off to Burma. We were going to walk the Lido Road
Yes.
after you drove down it. But the government won't let us do that, so we're going to some of the other places that you went to. But I'm pretty excited to be going where you went all those years ago. So it's 61...
It's a long year, a lot of time, isn't it?
62 years ago. Needs me doing the same steps now.
Yeah.
That's another fine mess you got me into.
I know. Abby told me that as well sometimes.
You should have started telling me your stories. They were fascinating. You've had a good life, haven't you, with us?
Yes, I've had a good life in the army. I've taken out photographs where I could.
Yeah.
I wasn't supposed to be taking photographs.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you ever think about those days?
Sometimes, not very often now. It's quite a bit ago now since we were there.
It can't be that many years. You're only a young man.
Don't kid me up.
So where do you start? A lot of thought went into this, and all of that won't go in here.
Gosh, is all this going to go in?
Of course it isn't.
We got T-shirts for the Burmese because they like American T-shirts, so they're for presents.
Why are they made in China for American?
I don't know, but they're just like
All we've got to do
American
is look
right
across the border.
I think I'm getting the hang of this. Burmese phrase book. Can we hire a guide? Skaik, nga, lo, ya, la. Yela. I am sorry. Oh, I'll need to learn that one. I'm sure I'll be standing on a lot of people's toes.
You stick so in there somewhere.
Ne ba de. One ne ba de. I am glad. One cha ba de. Oh gosh, they're close.
By now you've got the whole population
So
in
I'll stand on
hysterics.
somebody's toe and get it wrong and say, I'm glad.
All the years I travel abroad, I never did this to my case.
I would have put that right at the bottom.
Why?
Because you're not squashing
It'll
your
fall
clothes
out.
down. We're going now, Dad.
Okay,
See you after we've been in the jungle. I've recently had 2 run-ins with cancer. It took me 3 years to recover from the treatments, which seem to have cured me. Unfortunately, the long-term effects of the radiation are likely to cause me to develop cancer again in 5, 10 or 15 years' time.
Bye. Bye.
My dad's war experience has left their mark, and battles with cancer have left me scarred too. I discovered life can be unexpectedly cut short, so I hope this record of my trip to Myanmar to honour my father's wartime service and pay tribute to the soldiers of 14th Army will inspire my grandchildren not to delay, but to get on and fulfil their heart's desires. I'll go in the passenger door. Go in the front with my lovely daughter.
Yeah.
finally made it to Myanmar, and I'm stood here in a street in Yangon, surrounded by monasteries and nunneries, temples and pagodas. Still wearing the clothes I've been wearing for the past 60 hours, thanks to a common glitch for air travellers. Passenger arrives, luggage doesn't. None of us, camera crew included, has any luggage, so I can't even borrow a deodorant. But notwithstanding that, I have a fantastic view of the Shwedagon Pagoda in the background. This fabulous sight seen from everywhere in Yangon, even my hotel bedroom. And as soon as we've gone to the market to buy some changes of clothing and get this traffic out of the way, we're going to go to visit the Shwedagon Pagoda. Mind the gap with mind your head here. Myanmar is predominantly a Buddhist country. You'll find pagodas and temples on just about every hilltop in the area. Buddhist teachings say that if a man designs and builds a pagoda in this life, he earns merit in his next. During World War II, when my dad was on patrol, he came across shrines and statues of Buddha tucked away everywhere, even in the jungle. I've been told that if I strike this bell 3 times, I'm sharing my merit with the universe. So here goes. I'm just amazed at the carving and the workmanship and the intricacies of all the designs and the amount of gold, the sounds of monks singing as they scrub the floor, people ringing the bells. I've just bought 5 pieces of gold leaf for 1,000 chats, which is the equivalent of $1. And now I have the honour of sticking the gold leaf on this Buddha. Seeing the reflection of the Shwedagon Pagoda in the lake is like something from a fairy tale, and the fact that I'm here in Yangon, Myanmar is a fairy tale come true. Tomorrow we leave for Myitkyina. It's an 800-mile journey to the north, and that's where I'll be travelling in my father's World War II footsteps, going to the places where he saw action against the Japanese. Pretty empty of cars, lots of bicycles and motorcycles. And we're on the Lido Road. This was just a track where my dad drove down it. It wasn't completed this far. Well, we've arrived in Myitkyina. This is where my father saw his very first action against the Japanese in Burma, as it was called then. Oh, what is that? Gosh, that was good.
Which is donated by the Japanese group
Yes.
for memorial for Japanese who died around Myanmar. For that reason, they built that temple.
Okay. Well, the Japanese lost 200,000 men in the Burma campaign,
Yeah.
and the Allies lost 27,000 men. It's a lot of men to die. This temple was donated to the people of Myitkyina by Sakaguchi Mutsumi, a World War II Japanese army captain, and is dedicated to his fallen comrades. When Captain Mutsumi was fighting the Allies in North Burma, he was forced to retreat to Myitkyina. Knowing the battle for North Burma was lost, his commander, General Mitsukami, asked his superiors for permission to withdraw and regroup, but he was told, nope, you've got to fight to the death. Mitsukami wasn't prepared to sacrifice his men for a lost cause, so he told them to disperse and make their own way to safety. The people of Myitkyina showed them little-known pathways through the jungle to make their escape. Mitsukami took his own life, taking on himself his soldiers' dishonour at not fighting to the death. Captain Mutsumi never forgot Mitsukami's sacrifice, and in 1999 he returned to Myitkyina to build this shrine. So now I'm lighting a candle for the Japanese, the Americans, the British, the Indians, the Kachins, and the Chinese. There have been a number of name changes in Myanmar since World War II. Rangoon is now called Yangon, Pegu became Bego, Pagan changed to Bagan, and of course, Burma is now known as Myanmar. Myanmar could be one of the wealthiest countries in the world. It's rich in jade, diamonds, rubies, gold, not to mention the oil, and its wealth attracted traders and then ultimately the British government, who took over rule of the country in the 19th century after the Anglo-Burmese Wars. And that is how it was until the Japanese bombed Rangoon in 1941. The Japanese drove the British out of Burma and back to India in the longest retreat the British army's ever known. This invasion was the start of the Burma campaign, the longest campaign of World War II, which ended in August 1945 with the dropping of the atomic bombs over Japan. Much of the action was brutal, hand-to-hand fighting, which ranged from pestilent jungle-covered mountain ridges to parched desert in central Burma, and disease was as much an enemy as the Japanese. I don't think there's been such a mix of nationalities involved in warfare in any other part of the world before or since. Allied forces alone included Indian regiments, Gurkhas, West Africans, East Africans, English, Welsh, Irish, Scottish, Australians, New Zealanders, Americans, Chinese, Burmese. There were also the hill tribes, the Karens, the Kachins, the Chins, the Shans, the Luashai, and apologies for anybody I've forgotten. Long-range penetration units, such as American Merrill's Marauders and the British Chindits, named after those undefeatable mythological lions that guard Burmese temples, operated hundreds of miles behind enemy lines. And in 1944, when the British launched its final campaign to retake Burma, my father had a small part to play in the northern part of this country, and that's why I'm here in Myitkyina. This is the town where Merrill's Marauders, along with the Chinese 150th Regiment, captured the airfield, but attempts to capture the town failed miserably. One day the Chinese would be in occupation, the next day it would be the Japanese. Eventually the whole fight deteriorated into a 78-day siege, which did not end until the capture of Nam Quy village, which cut off supplies to the Japanese in Myitkyina. I've come to Nam Quy because my dad would have died here, except that during the fighting he slipped and fell in the mud, narrowly missing the enemy bullet that was meant for him. And I was looking at this scene, the pigs are feeding, the chickens and the hens are running around and the thatch is being put to dry. And then one morning, they've been living with the Japanese for some time, some years, and then one morning they wake up and hear the machine guns rattling on the outside of the village as the British and Americans come in to attack. And then they're under mortar fire and some artillery fire, and I wonder what they do. They probably run off into the jungle and leave the Japanese to it to fight, and come back and find the village in flames and dead bodies everywhere. And then I pick up the pieces and start life all over again. It's hard to believe that 62 years ago, this was the site of a battle to get control of the village and drive out the Japanese. It just seems too peaceful. The British and Americans came to take the village because of the Chong that we've just been to, the river. It was one way that the Japanese were getting men and supplies into Myitkyina. And so when this fell into Allied hands, supplies of men to Myitkyina town, which was under siege, had just ceased, and eventually Myitkyina fell to the Allies. This is beautiful here. Once Myitkyina was in Allied hands, Stilwell's Chinese divisions and the British 36th Division headed south along the railway corridor, which stretched 145 miles from Myitkyina in the north to Qatar in the south. When the Japanese fled, they destroyed all the locomotives, so there were no engines to pull the trains. Not to be outdone, the Allies adapted jeeps by removing the wheels and replacing them with steel phalanged wheels that would fit on the rails. A 1-ton jeep could pull 3 carriages full of supplies to the front lines of Mogong at the speed of 30 miles an hour. We're very fortunate this evening to be able to speak to Mr. and Mrs. Al-Goudi. Mr. Al-Goudi fought with the Kachin levies under the British in 1944, and that itself is very remarkable, very brave. So I count myself very lucky that these two people are in Myitkyina at the time I am as well. I was amazed that Mr. Al-Goudi had brought out his uniform, his World War II uniform, complete with medals. This is over 60 years old. It's amazing. And he's got his Burma star and his campaign star and the 1939-1945 medal for King George. And he's also got his, would this be called a badge?
Burma campaign.
For the this is for the Kachin levies.
The Kachin levies.
Yes.
This is from Kachin levies.
Yes, so he was
101 Ranger.
101 Ranger.
he was a 101 Ranger under the British Army. And I don't know if the British would have won the war without the Kachin levies, working behind the lines and fighting through the jungles. I think the British depended a lot on the Kachin levies. What does he think the British Army learned from the Kachins?
Kachin is British.
Durga Kachin Skati in Tuare. Mumari Udora. Who Milgananga Makomala Yabu.
They never give up. No, they never give up. So what they learn, hospitality.
Hospitality.
And very tough people.
Yes.
And very friendly people. They like a spiritual,
Yes. That is a very good thing for British soldiers to learn. I'm sure their lives were much richer for working with the Kachins. I couldn't resist asking Mr. Agudi if he remembered some of his army drills.
Fallen, right 3. One sitting, number 1 sitting, right 3. I front. Number 1 sitting, I front. Hang hit. 1, 2, 1. Shoulder step. 1, 2, 1. Okay.
Yes, now he remembers all the English words for that, stripping and cleaning his rifle. Yes.
Now, Peter, pamphlet number 3, lesson number 2. Load, unload, and setting.
Load and load.
Loading and
Load,
setting.
unload, and setting. Pamphlet number 3, lesson number 3. Holding, aiming,
Aiming,
Cinder.
yes.
Talk of bising. Kluk sweda. Ala.
Fire.
Ra chin no. Tong. Tong ala look in ya.
It's going to be chilly at the back here, isn't it, for a little while?
That's all right.
It's only 37 miles to Magong. Well, the original plan was to catch the train this morning to Magong and travel along the railway. We found out that the train would not now be coming till 3 o'clock. And so we're travelling by truck to Magong. We're going to stop here because of the change of plan. We're able to go to the Thousand Buddha Temple. We're in the temple of 1,000 Buddhas. They're all facing east to catch the morning sun. Each one bears a plaque giving the name of the person who bought and donated the statue to the temple. In the background we can hear the noise of spades and pickaxes as soldiers donate their time to keep the temple grounds in good repair. June the 16th, 1944, the Chinese took Kamine, forcing the Japanese south to Salmo to regroup. On June 26th, the Chinese arrived here in Mogong, just as Major Mad Mike Calvert's 77th Indian Infantry Chindit Brigade took the town after fierce fighting. With Mogong and Carmine in Allied hands, General Stilwell was able to get reinforcements to Myitkyina. Major Calvert had 2,000 Chindits in order to take the town. Most of them were decimated by malaria and dysentery after 3 months jungle fighting. In well-fortified Mogong, 4,000 Japanese waited for them. It was a ferocious battle and Major Calvert lost half his men, and of the 1,000 men who were left, only 300 were fit for further action. So when he received further orders from General Stilwell to join the battle for Myitkyina, he risked his career by shutting down his radio and marched his men to Carmine to be flown safely to India. When my father arrived in Mogong, it was badly ruined, and the unit joked about finding the local dance hall and all the pretty girls or going to the chippy for cod and chips. To the south of the town, they came across a Chindit unit on its way out. The Chindits were emaciated, filthy, had bushy beards, dressed in rags, and some of them were covered in boils. They passed one another with friendly banter, the one group leaving the battle scene close to breaking point both physically and mentally, the other group heading for the battlefront, fresh for the battle ahead. 10 miles south of Mogong, Hill 60 dominates the entrance to the valley. You can see it's not much of a hill, but it was heavily fortified by the Japanese. Their bunkers were so well constructed that medium artillery fire and bombing by the Air Force caused little damage to them. The only possible means of approach for 72nd Brigade was through wide open country in full view of the enemy. Hill 60 was going to be a hard hill to capture. My father's company was attached to the 6th South Wales Borderers, and with 2 other columns was involved in a night attack. Unfortunately, it was a brilliant moonlit night. The centre column was pinned down by heavy machine gun fire, so while the Japanese bunkers were heavily involved in keeping them tied down, my father and some of the Royal Engineers were ordered to push 40-gallon petrol drums up the hill, which was a difficult task in the slick mud. They managed to get the drums to the top and puncture them with pickaxes and roll them down onto the Japanese bunkers. Gurkha machine gunners set the petrol alight. A ball of flames erupted as ammunition exploded inside the bunkers. You could hear the Japanese screaming inside, and then 2, in flames, bolted from the bunkers and rolled around in a frenzy in the mud, trying to put out the flames. My father and his friend Darky raised their rifles to put the burning men out of their agony. But my father, my gentle, caring father, couldn't pull the trigger, so filled with hate was he towards the Japanese for what they'd done to his friends in Assam, who were raped, mutilated and killed by a Japanese patrol. Tony was a small railway halt, and taking it for the Allies was a walkover. Having been thrashed on Hill 60, the Japanese were on the run. And the only Japanese found in Tony were 200 decomposing bodies in an open bomb crater. No attempt had been made to cover the dead, as the Japanese were retreating too quickly to take care of the dead properly. The air reeked of death and destruction. My father said the stench, the flies, the filth had to be experienced to be believed. Fortunately, the troops didn't have to stay in this area very long. It was here that my father and 6-2 Company parted from 36th Division. My father returned to Myitkyina and was flown back to Assam. With Jiro's help, we're going to talk to this lady who was 16 years old during the war, and she lived in Tawny. Was she here all the time during the war? When the...
Was it on a party? Yes. Yeah, she was here. She was born in here.
Does she remember the Japanese in the bomb crater? There were 200 Japanese killed.
Japanese came here by flight and bombing here.
The Japanese bombed Tawny?
Yeah. So
The Americans bombed Tawny as well, as poor village was bombed on both sides.
they are running out of the village to the direction. There's a mountain at the base of the mountain.
So they ran out of the village to the mountains to safety. Where did they hide in the hills? Are they caves or did they build shelter?
They're digging down the ground,
Yes.
like a hole.
Okay,
And they stay down there and keep the leaf.
good hiding place. Tell her I'm very pleased her village is in peace and that it's prospering.
They who are you are in agents alley. She said, I never go far away from my village until I die.
I understand why. It's perfect. It's beautiful. The Lido Road covers 271 miles from Lido in northeast India to its junction with the Burma Road. Many bridges were needed as the road crosses 10 rivers and 155 streams. We've already travelled over half a dozen Bailey bridges built during World War II, which are still in daily use. And now we're at Warrazup Bridge in the Hukong Tiger Reserve. Hello. We're going to see how difficult it would be to cross the river during the monsoon season if the American Army engineers hadn't built this bridge. Stand by this concrete pillar, Peter, and we can see how high the water goes. Well, that's 6 feet. And it's got to be a minimum of another 6 feet. So that means the water rises here 12 feet in the monsoon season. No, all this will be covered. That's why they needed a wide bridge. Finding a cross at the top of this hill is surprising in a predominantly Buddhist country. But we're in Kachin State, which is 80% Christian because of the missionaries who've worked here over the years. Well, here we are, high above Shadowsup. And when my father came through in July 1944, this was the furthest built that the road was. From Shadowsup onwards, it was just a rough track. We have a wonderful view of the Hukong Valley. Just one aspect of the magnificence of Myanmar. It's great. Out in the wilds, facilities were primitive, but we never felt deprived with our guides taking care of us. Tanzin knows how to fry a great egg, and Jiro's campfire donuts, the best I've ever tasted, made up for everything.
Pauline, breakfast.
Thanks, Jiro.
Peter.
Thank you. Thank you.
Here we are in Tanai. I'm well wrapped up against the early morning chill, and this is as far north as we're allowed to go. Apparently there were some disturbances in the area recently, and the Myanmar government, concerned for our safety, has refused us permission to go any further north. The Indian border lies another 120 miles along the Lido Road, and I'm really disappointed that we're not going to be able to travel there, especially as it would have been in wild jungle. However, I'm very pleased that we did stop in Tanai, because I found out something about this wonderful long 1,000-foot bridge. It was built in 1944 by the American Army engineers, but the centre span has been replaced in 1951. And believe it or not, the steel, the girders for this bridge, come from my hometown of Middlesbrough in England, built by Dorman Long Iron and Steel. I find it absolutely amazing that I'm here in the remote north of Myanmar, and here are steel girders on this bridge from my hometown. When my dad was called up for military service in 1939, he was working at Dorman Long Iron and Steel, and when he drove over this bridge in 1944, my mother was working in the steelworks in Middlesbrough. Here's the plaque. It's showing that the bridge was built by McClellans of Glasgow, and on this girder here is the name of Dorman Long's Company Limited, Middlesbrough, England. Yep. You may be wondering why the Lido Road is so important, apart from the fact my father drove along it in 1944. In 1942, America was sending supplies through Burma to Chiang Kai-shek, who'd been fighting the Japanese on Chinese soil since 1937. With China's ports closed, the only route for American supplies was through the port of Rangoon and along the Burma Road. American General Vinegar Joe Stilwell was in Burma to ensure that American supplies reached China, so when the Japanese invaded Burma and the British retreated, General Stilwell had no option but to retreat as well. As soon as he arrived in India, Stilwell pushed for the building of the Lido Road from North Assam over the Patkai Mountains into North Burma, a feat many thought impossible. Meanwhile, the only way to get supplies to China was by flights over the lower Himalayas, which the pilots called the Hump. Dakotas took off from airfields in North Assam, newly constructed by Royal Engineers, one of them being my father. Construction of the Lido Road began in 1942. Chinese troops under Stilwell's command battled and drove 40,000 enemy soldiers from North Burma only a few miles ahead of the bulldozers pushing forward, up and down mountain ranges, through disease-infested jungle. The building of the road was a magnificent feat of engineering, involving 15,000 American soldiers and 25,000 native workers. Today we leave in Mitchener. We're going to make good use of the extra 12 days we have by going to the Central Plains, made fertile by the Irrawaddy River. This is a river that can tell many a tale about World War II, and that's why we're heading for Mandalay. I'm told there's a good view of the plain from the top of the hill, well worth all 1,729 steps we're climbing to get there. But there is another reason I want to climb this hill. But I've made the journey specially to come and see this plaque, which commemorates the regiment that captured the hill from the Japanese on the 8th and 9th of March 1945. And I'm glad I came because I thought it was another regiment that had captured the hill, but it was actually the 4th Battalion, 4th Prince of Wales Gurkha Rifles who captured Mandalay Hill. And this plaque's dedicated to those Gurkhas who lost their lives here. There was a lot of severe fighting here in Mandalay with a lot of strong Japanese opposition and a lot of bravery shown by the Allied soldiers. Here it began. 14th Army performed one of wartime's most dangerous manoeuvres, an opposed river crossing. Not only that, but the river is 1,000 yards wide. Even with a strong outboard motor, it will take us 30 minutes to cross. By the end of January 1945, Indian and British forces were lined up along 160 miles of this side of the river, the western banks, ready to cross at strategic places. It was the dry season and water levels were low and the current was slow, but nevertheless it was a formidable obstacle to cross this river. General Slim was very concerned about his equipment. He hadn't any really, with the war in Europe having first claim on military supplies. But one idea he came up with was to deceive the Japanese about where the main crossing was going to be on the river. Consequently, Kaimura, the Japanese commander, raced his troops to Mandalay area where he thought the main crossing was going to be. But actually, this is the area where the main crossing was to take place, 200 miles south of Mandalay. At Niu'u at 3:45 a.m. on Valentine's Day 1945, a company of South Lancashire regiments made a silent crossing by paddling their boats across the Irrawaddy River and then seizing the high ground above the beach. With planes flying overhead to drown out the noise of the outboard motors, the two remaining companies set out for their crossing. They were still on the water at sunrise. The Japanese started machine gunning the helpless soldiers and killing two company commanders. Those that could returned to the western banks. So now you have a commander standing on this beach, watching the sunrise, feeling pretty disconsolate, can't make a crossing, he's failed. To try now would be suicidal. I can imagine him not being able to appreciate the magnificent view of the temples and the sunrise and this wonderful swathe of water with the sun gleaming on it, wondering what he's going to do next. And then suddenly, he sees a small boat taking off from the far shore and the crew are waving a white flag. When they land, they tell him they belong to the Indian National Army. The Japanese have hurried north, left them in charge of the garrison, and they wish to surrender. Life's full of twists and turns. I'm feeling quite sad sitting here because I can see all those pagodas built in the 12th century or thereabouts, and it must have been a great society to have built so many pagodas. There's still over 2,000 left. And yet the culture that spawned them is gone, lost, faded away, destroyed. It's a bit why I'm making this film. In case in future years that I will fade away, be gone, if I get cancer again. And I'm leaving this film as a legacy to my grandchildren, just as those ancient pagodas are left as a legacy of the culture that existed all those years ago. Before we leave Myanmar, there's one more place I want to go to pay my respects to those men of 14th Army who did not return home, including my father's dear friend, Lance Corporal George Henderson. Many medals for bravery were awarded during the Burma campaign, more than in any other theatre in World War II. 29 medals, I believe. The war in Burma also produced many heroes, names immortalised in history, units that captured the imagination of newspaper reporters. American General Vinegar Joe Stilwell, Merrill's Marauders, Ord Wingate and the Chindits, Chennault and the Flying Tigers, and then there was British General Sir William Slim, commander of 14th Army. But for me, the real heroes are men like my father and Lance Corporal Henderson, transported away from home, risking life and limb to fight for king and country in a strange land, doing extraordinary things when called upon by duty. For me, those are the real heroes and the men who lie here in this wonderful cemetery outside Yangon. Gosh, this is beautiful. Oh, Peter, look what I've found in the memorial book. Lance Corporal George Robert Henderson, 6-2 Field Company, Royal Engineers, died 15th of August 1943, aged 24. Son of William and Maud Henderson, Ushermoor, County Durham. The men of 14th Army felt they were the forgotten army, but they're not forgotten here in this beautiful cemetery. Not forgotten, my father's friend. So it was a great trip.
It was worthwhile attending anyway.
Yeah. I'm glad you told me your stories, otherwise I'd never have got there.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah. It was a good feeling walking along the road, knowing that you'd driven
Yes.
down this road. All in all, it was a great trip.
Good.
I wanted to show you these photos. This is the first bit of the Lido Road that I went on. They still had the original 60-year-old Bailey Beach Cemetery. Now it's there. On Corporal Henderson in the memorial book. It's there in the memorial book. Gives his name. Mandalay Hill. So we climbed steps. There's over 1,000 steps to the top where Slim soldiers were crossing to Big Island. And I enjoyed my trip, Dad, going in your footsteps.